to the Collaborative Mentoring webinar series. Today we'll be talking about how cross-sector partnerships and collaborations can drive success and build capacity for youth-serving agencies. This webinar is part of the Collaborative Mentoring webinar series, which is funded by the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention through the National Mentoring Resource Center and is facilitated in partnership with Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership. These webinars would not be possible without the planning team, which includes the mentoring partnership shown on this slide. In addition to this webinar series, the NMRC provides resources for mentoring practitioners. At the end of this webinar, we'll provide more details about how you can access this free support. Before we get started, I wanted to share some housekeeping information. In 1 week, you'll receive an email with information about how to download a copy of these slides and view the webinar recording. You can also access this information directly by going to the Mentor's website in the next week. And to continually improve this series, we're looking for your input. A short survey will pop up as you exit the webinar. Please take about 3 minutes to give us your feedback. And again, we want this to be a participatory experience, so please use the question box to ask questions throughout the webinar. Audrey Siegfried from Colorado will be queuing up questions to share with panelists during the Q&A portion of the webinar. We may not get to all questions because there are several hundred of you on the webinar, but we will do our best. The questions that we share with our panelists are generally ones that broaden or deepen the conversation. So first, to get a sense of who is with us today, we have 2 short polls. So the first one is, what is your experience level in the mentoring field? We welcome everyone and think that today's information will be applicable to everyone on the line. You can begin the poll. We have quite a bit of experienced mentoring professionals on the call with 62% and a little bit of beginner, and we have a small portion of experts. All right, for our second poll, what is your actual role in the mentoring field? So we have practitioner, researcher, technical assistance, provider. You may begin the poll. Okay, so a lot of those who are experienced in the mentoring field are practitioners on a call with us today. A few researchers and funders and some other, and of course we have some few technical assistance providers on the line. Again, we hope that today's webinar includes information or inspiration for each of you, irregardless of your role. So now, it's time that I would like to introduce myself and our 3 panelists. We are fortunate to be joined by 3 very experienced and insightful leaders in the field of youth mentoring and cross-sector partnerships and collaborations. I am Desiree Robertson, Senior Manager with the Memphis Grizzlies Foundation, and I direct the local mentoring affiliate Team Up Youth Mentoring Partnership. Along with being a mentoring professional, I am currently an adjunct faculty of sociology with Christian Brothers University in Southwest Tennessee Community College here in Memphis. So joining us with our 3 panelists today are Dr. Lauran James with Reach Memphis, Dr. Emmet Campos, and Mike Gutierrez, both with Project Males. To share a little bit about Dr. Lauran James, she is the Director of Mentoring and Volunteer Services for one of Memphis's premier mentoring programs called Reach Memphis. And she's also a program partner with the Team Up Youth Mentoring Partnership and a Quality NQMS member. She was born and raised in Los Angeles, California, and was a former high school English and Spanish teacher. Lauran has a doctorate in education with a research focus on mentoring. Great. Dr. Emmet Campos currently directs Project Males in the Texas Education Consortium for Male Students of Color. As director, Dr. Campos serves as the Chief Operations Officer for all Project Males and Consortium activities and is responsible for communications and engagement with key partners. He received his Ph.D. in Cultural Studies and Education Curriculum and Instruction from the University of Texas at Austin. Previously, he directed grant-funded initiatives focused on men of color and Latino students, college transfer and completion at the Center for Community College Student Engagement, served as project director for the Institute for Community, University, and School Partnerships, and is taught at UT Austin, St. Edward's University, and Austin Community College. All right, Mike Gutierrez is Program Coordinator for Project Males Mentoring Program. He served as a graduate assistant for Project Males from 2013 to 2015 and has worked at UT Austin since 2009 as a student. He completed his master's in education in the College and University Student Professional Administration program in spring of 2015 and a bachelor's in psychology in 2013 from the University of Texas at Austin. So thank you all for joining us today and sharing best practices on cross-sector relationships. So before we start our conversation, let's frame it on cross-sector partnerships and a little bit of the definitions, research, and focus. So cross-sector partnerships, while ripe with its potential to benefit partners in the community, it can sometimes be difficult to maintain. But we're here today to learn how we can best use practices from our programs. Relationships may not become easy if one or more partners believe that the individuals, their goals, or their needs are not met. But again, we're thinking about how do we dedicate more resources to the project and we become comfortable with this collaboration. There are competing definitions of cross-sector partnerships and collaborations. Early definitions in the research characterize social partnerships as inherently cross-sectoral to be the voluntary collaborative efforts of actors from organizations in two or more economic sectors in a forum, in which they cooperatively attempt to solve a problem or issue of mutual concern. Mostly, it's about identifying public policy agenda items and using cross-sector partnerships in order to benefit both parties. So for the purpose of this webinar, we will be using the working definition as cross-sector partnerships or collaborations that are formed explicitly to address social issues and causes that actively engage the partners on an ongoing basis with a focus on addressing challenges such as economic development, education, healthcare, poverty alleviation, community capacity building, and environmental sustainability. So a great national example of how cross-sector partnerships and collaborations work are our mentoring affiliates. Of course, Mentor, the National Mentoring Partnership, has national networks of affiliates serving as the catalyst of state and local mentoring movements. These affiliates are nonpartisan public-private organizations. Some are standalone 501c3s. Others exist inside governmental entities, of course, MBA team foundations, and the United Way. And all of them work with cross-sector entities to further the mentoring movement. These mentoring affiliates, again, have either a city, regional, or statewide reach and have partnerships with a variety of mentoring programs, youth development programs, and strategic partners who work to provide mentors and or funding opportunities, and of course exist to work with corporations in the same vein. The cross-sector value add for these mentoring affiliates include, but not limited to, they have quarterly meetings with their partnership. They have networking opportunities, data sharing across the local or statewide initiatives. They provide trainings and TA on national mentoring standards, and some of them have annual mentoring awards and recognition events. Often, mentoring affiliates bring in cross-sector partners to aid in the above events and training and provide all kinds of opportunities for collaborations. Within our own network, and you can change the slide. Within our own network of mentoring affiliates, we gather each year for our annual meeting called MentorCon, and we benefit from cross-sector partnerships and collaborations with presentations and training opportunities from national trainers, researchers, and other corporations. So to further our discussion on cross-sector partnerships and collaborations, I'm going to ask Dr. Lauran James to start and share a little bit about Reach Memphis and her work with cross-sector partnerships and collaborations.
Thanks, Desiree, and good afternoon to everyone who's attending. We're glad you're here. I'd like to start with an overview of Reach Memphis. Reach Memphis helps high-achieving students with a 3.5 GPA or above succeed in high school, college, and beyond. Students are recruited from public high schools, and they enter Reach Memphis as high school sophomores, and they experience an amazing 3 years, culminating with their high school graduation. 100% of our graduating seniors are accepted into a 4-year college or university. Reach Memphis provides educational opportunities for motivated students to achieve their highest potential by engaging them in a continuum of services, including the following: high school readiness programs to establish a solid framework for success throughout their high school experience. Summer experiences with preparatory schools, colleges, and leadership programs across the country to expand students' minds socially, culturally, and academically while they study with students from all over the world. These summer experiences can last anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks. Their roommates could be from Italy, Switzerland, Colombia, France, Japan, or any one of 65 countries. And these roommates often become lifelong relationships. College readiness counseling and their programs to help students prepare for, select, and apply to colleges best suited to their interests. Scholar programs which improve specific skill sets and or explore defined career paths. Then we have college transition counseling to support our college freshmen as they adjust to college life. Reach Memphis offers one-on-one, group, team, and peer mentoring models. And we're celebrating our 50th anniversary this year, which we're so excited about. Now, whenever I'm in a presentation regarding Reach Memphis, people tend to think that our criteria is pretty stringent, and they ask me, well, what about those students who only have a 3.0 GPA? Is there any hope for them? Well, we soon realized that in order to grow those 3.0 GPAs to 3.5 by the time they're sophomores, we need to add a middle school component to our strategic plan. We now work with grades 7 through 9 in trying to prepare them to be able to enter Reach Memphis by the time they are sophomores. I'd like to offer a few guidelines that will help you maneuver through the myriad of companies that may or may not make good partners for your mentoring programs. I'd like to share how Reach Memphis has gone about establishing relationships with viable strategic partners, and perhaps these tactics can work for you as well. How closely are your prospective partners following their industry's best practices? Their logic models or change theory documentation could help you answer those questions. And look for large established groups. Fortune 500 companies are great candidates. We have 4 headquartered here in Memphis. We're currently working with 3, Nucor Steel, Smith & Nephew, and International Paper. And please understand that we're steadily chipping away at the other 2, which are AutoZone and FedEx. Greek letter sororities and fraternities offer excellent opportunities because their community outreach is all ways to see who else they can help and make a project for the next year. Civic and social groups are great sources because they too often look for projects to adopt. Faith-based organizations are interested in mentoring because it enriches their community outreach and can very well increase the size of their congregations through developing relationships not only with the students, but the rest of their families as well. Colleges and universities. Now, earlier this week, Reach Memphis formed a collaboration with the University of Memphis's Alpha Kappa Psi business fraternity, which will participate with our Business Scholars group. Also, you can target financial organizations and governmental agencies. All these are great choices for strategic partners. Now, another component to strategic partners is that they need to share common objectives stemming from their respective mission statements, and you should have common short and long-term goals. These components can usually be identified when you share logic models. When studying a potential partner's inputs, activities, assumptions, outputs, outcomes, and change theory, you recognize whether this organization will even make a viable partner. Benefits must be discussed from both partners' perspectives. What objectives do you have in common with your prospective strategic partner? Determine if any costs will be involved, either proposed stipends for students or just the cost of doing business for partners. Also consider any venue charges and so forth. Other strategic partners that have worked well are large scholarly associations, such as the National Society of Black Engineers and Teach for America, both of which partner with Reach Memphis. And because Reach Memphis falls under the umbrella of the Grizzlies Foundation, we find it very advantageous to learn about and form collaboratives with many of the other 56 associate and partner groups. Most large companies have a community outreach component, and they're always looking for ways to bust their shining stars so that they shine even brighter. Now, several large companies have approached us wanting to start their own mentoring program because of the success that they've seen in Reach Memphis. For example, Nucor Steel, which is our first corporate collaborative, was desperate to form their own mentoring program. It never ceases to amaze me that they all, in one way or another, end up saying, "Lauran, do I have a wonderful new idea for you?" What I have to let them know is this guy already accommodated us millions of years ago. Here is where you discuss your expertise in having an already structured program. Invite them to become a partner with you. And FYI, as Desiree mentioned earlier, I wrote my dissertation on the subject of developing a mentor program from beginning to end. Because all of our 300 plus students have indicated career aspirations, we looked for large corporations and organizations that are commensurate with our students' goals. Now, Nucor Steel became our first group mentoring model. Students meet at their facility once per month for their academically focused mentoring session, and then they schedule additional time throughout the month for fun activities. Nucor Steel is a very successful partnership because we followed verbatim the steps that you will see in this slide. One of Nucor's employees approached me after a training session and asked if I would help them start a mentoring program. And I emphatically said no. But I then quickly followed that up with the statement, hey, let's become partners. I met with Nucor upper management to discuss the possibilities of how our partnership would work. Nucor provides the mentors, the meeting space, and Reach Memphis provides the students and the curriculum. So together, we developed a plan of action for what this partnership would look like. How many employees are going to be involved? We suggested mentoring models. We looked at the specific schools within their zip code where students could come from, and we did an outline of school mentoring sessions and then fun activities as well. Nucor then hosted a kickoff orientation for all stakeholders, upper management, mentors, students, and parents. I cannot stress how important this orientation is, and try to make it as interactive as humanly possible. These corporations have a huge stake in participating as well. They're all looking for future employees. Nucor is looking for these students to go on to college, and as soon as they graduate from college, they're looking for them to come back to Memphis and become engineers within their employee organization. Another of our recent partnerships that is in the organizing and planning stage is with the Memphis Bar Association and the Memphis Black Bar Association. They need students that will become interns during their summer vacations, and they have opted for a group mentoring model. Here again, another example of a win-win for everybody. To ensure that your chosen collaborative will remain viable, a process evaluation should be performed at year end. The goal of process evaluation is to determine whether the mentoring program components are happening as intended. You identify any strengths and weaknesses of that program implementation, identify the feasibility of specific practices and procedures, and identify any areas for improvement. A rigorous process evaluation is also essential for conducting outcome evaluations. Corporate partners often provide curriculum suggestions and offer even to facilitate some workshop sessions. For example, for our financial literacy scholars, they were formed as a result of working with one of the local banks in Memphis that wanted to offer their senior management an opportunity to participate in sharing information that would enhance our students' knowledge and abilities to save money and invest money. Our business scholars are headed by a retired Fortune 500 executive who exposes these students to current CEOs and other business professionals who share advice, both from an entrepreneurial standpoint and from a corporate stance. Essay writing, reading comprehension, ACT and SAT boot camps, and cultural competency classes are weaved throughout each of the scholars' groups. Usually, partners will offer subject matter experts from within their employee base. Because of the win-win atmosphere you've established with the collaborative, specific workshops are encouraged to create holistic student profiles. Collaboratives play a large part in helping to provide facilitators and venues for scholar groups with which they feel a shared connection. Reach Memphis Scholar Programs offer students specialized and college-focused curriculum in areas such as STEM, healthcare, business, education, law, and more. They also offer a concentration on communication skills and public speaking skills, as well as hands-on project management and leadership responsibilities. Each program is unique. While some feature additional travel experiences and others offer internships, they all offer the opportunity to increase one's knowledge, hone critical life skills, and develop friendships with local professionals via our strategic partners that will benefit students today and in the future. I hope I've been able to enlighten you on where and how to go about getting these strategic partners, and I hope that they become viable for you and you will be in years and years of relationships. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Lauran. I'm always, again, amazed by the wonderful work that you and the team at Reach Memphis are doing and making great cross-sector partnerships and collaborations work. So, Audrey, do we have a few questions from the audience?
We definitely do. Thank you, Lauran, for sharing all of that excellent information. So the first question I have is, can you provide a bit more information about the target youth population that you serve and how you identify and pursue specific partnerships to help meet the needs of these youth while also benefiting the partner?
Absolutely. We target all of the public high schools in Memphis, and specifically we're looking for students that have that 3.5 GPA or above. They are exuding leadership skills either extracurricularly or somewhere in the community, and they have to be involved in community service. We look for partners that will enhance each of those students' aspirations. When they come to us and complete an application, we know exactly what they're planning to do for the rest of their lives, even though we all know we fluctuate quite a bit before we finish college. But they have a pretty ingrained idea of where they want to go. And then we specifically look for corporations or for those academic programs that will help these students get to those aspirational desires.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lauran. I have another question on the corporate partner aspect. So you mentioned that corporate partners are looking for new employees, that this is a potential benefit to them. So how do you articulate that benefit to companies specifically and create this pipeline successfully?
Oh, that's great. We go into these meetings with corporations with an open mind. We understand that the benefit is not just going to be for Reach Memphis and our students. We know that in order for those corporations to get involved, they have to feel like something's in it for them. Now, they'll never come out and say, well, what's in this for me? We have to build that into our proposal. And we've had many. Nucor Steel was one that will just come out and tell you, look, when we're done mentoring these students and they go off to college, we expect them to come back, work for us, and then become mentors with Nucor Steel. So they don't hold it back. They don't keep it a secret. We all understand that when we're going into this strategic partnership proposal, that each of us is looking for how it's going to benefit us.
Excellent. Thank you. Desiree, do we have time for one more question?
Yes, I think we do. One quick question.
Okay, great. So I know Memphis is clearly a more metropolitan area, but we do have some callers who are from rural areas. So do you have any tips and tools for how someone who is in a more rural setting could go out and recruit companies that would be able to come and teach workshops for their youth?
Oh, that's wonderful. There are several resources within a rural community that would be able to partner with you. Take a look at your local law enforcement agencies. They are wanting to become more involved with the community so that they're not labeled as just the peacekeepers, but obviously someone that can offer their life experience to your students. Also, again, faith-based organizations that will be based in those rural areas. And again, the schools may have relationships with other companies that you can then piggyback with those schools on.
That's great. Thank you so much, Lauren and Audrey, for the questions. We will now continue our presentation and webinar with the two presenters, our panelists from Project Males. And I will turn it over to Dr. Emmet Campos and to kick us off.
Thank you, Desiree, and thanks to Mentor Resource, OJJDP, for giving us the opportunity to share our story here at Project Males with the audience. I want to begin, first of all, by talking a little bit about Project Males. I'm going to provide kind of a general overview, a kind of high-level overview of the work that we do, and I've got a couple of slides to share with the audience, and then Mike will take a deeper dive and talk about our mentoring program. And that's our mentoring program we describe as our local level impact of the work that we do. And so when we talk about Project Males, again, Project Males is an acronym. It stands for Mentoring to Achieve Latino Educational Success. And our goal at Project Males and the Texas Ed Consortium for Male Students of Color, which I'm a director of both, our goal is to address the pervasive educational attainment gap for African-American Latinos in Texas and nationally. And so that's our goal. And so how do we do that work? How do we address that gap? Well, you can't do it alone, right? It takes a multi-sector partnership. We listed a couple of our partners here that work with us to address this issue. Of course, we're based at the University of Texas at Austin. We're housed in the Division of Diversity and Community Engagement. And we have institutional support from the University of Texas. We partner with Texas A&M University. Dr. Luis Panjuan is the evaluative director of the work that we do. Of course, we have to track the outcomes of our mentoring program and the work that we do at the consortia and our research agenda, which I'll describe here in a moment. Some of the other partners that we work with locally, we've listed some of the schools that we work with here on the left. Austin Community College represents one of about 15 to 20 community colleges that are also part of our consortium work. And it's very important also to bring in local partners when we're working in the schools. For example, we have here Dove Springs Proud, which is a local community organization that works with us to serve our young men at Mendez Middle School and allowed us to be much more effective in the work that we do. So again, it takes multiple partners, local, state level, a national level. And at the national level, we have one of our national partners, which is My Brother's Keeper. Of course, everybody's familiar with President Obama's initiative to address this gap amongst our male students of color, male men of color. And both Mike and I are members of committees with My Brother's Keeper here. So again, there's other national partners, so we don't have them all listed here, but we'll mention a few of those here as we continue the presentation. So on the next slide, I'm going to describe what what Project Males consists of. When we talk about Project Males, we talk about it as having 3 initiatives. And at the very top of this graphic, you can see a description of the Research Institute. Again, this is a research agenda that has national impact. And our work has 3 levels of impact when we talk about the work that we do at the national level, at the state level, and at the local level. So at the national level, we have, of course, a research agenda that we run out of University of Texas at Austin and also Texas A&M. But in addition to that, we have a national network of 25 faculty research affiliates across the country that are based in, many are based in Research One institutions that are focused on Latino males. Now, our focus is on Latino males because there's a gap in the research on Latino males in comparison, for example, to African American male research. That work has been going on for a number of years, and there's about 5 or 6 at least research centers around the country that are focused on work on African American males. So about 8 years ago, Dr. Luis Pan Juan, who I mentioned, and Dr. Victor Sines, who was the founder of Project Males, they were both founders of Project Males about 8 years ago. They created this research agenda focused on Latino males, and we've now since built that research agenda over the last 8 years to include 25 research faculty affiliates, and then also a robust research agenda that we operate here at UT and at Texas A&M. The other initiative, the second initiative, is our state level impact of the work that we do at Project Males, and that's the Texas Ed Consortium for Male Students of Color. And again, that represents 3 sectors. It represents school districts, community colleges, and universities. And this is our state level impact. We have about 42 members. We began with 13 members when we created the consortium about 3.5, 4 years ago, and now built that up to 42 members and growing. So that's our state level impact. At the local level, I'll just say a few things about the mentoring program, because Mike again is going to speak more in depth about that work. That is a school and assets-based near-peer mentoring program. We work with middle and high school students here at Austin Independent School District, and we match them up with undergraduate mentors that are drawn from the UT undergraduate population, including ULN interns, which are University Leadership Network interns that we work with to match with our middle and high school young men. We're very intentional about youth voice and having youth input in the development of this work. And to that end, we have a Project Male Student Council that's made up of undergraduate students and mentors, and they help design and lead the curriculum and the work that we do here at Project Males with the mentoring program. And also, of course, have input into the work that we do at the consortium level, because we have an advisory council made up of representatives, including students. And then there's some summer programming that we do as well that Mike will address, and that's a Summer Leadership Academy that we're in the midst of planning. That's going to be in July, and then we have our summit in August. So again, as you can see, the work that we do requires many sectors, particularly in the education sector, but also beyond our educational sectors, to be able to do this work. And I mentioned some of the community-based organizations that we do, and that includes some philanthropic partners as well that support the work that we do. And it's multi-level, multi-scale, and I'll talk a little bit more about the consortium here in a moment if we can move to the next slide. This graphic represents the Texas Ed Consortia that I've been referring to. Again, it's headquartered here at UT Austin. We have a partnership with A&M. It was launched about 4 years ago. We're into our Consortia 2.0 phase, first year of the second 3-year grant that we received from the Kresge Foundation. I mentioned before that we have partners, philanthropic partners, that support the work that we do. A Greater Texas Foundation, Texas Guaranteed. Kresge, again, stepped up in the past year to support our work for the next 3 years. Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board has been a funder from the very beginning. Other foundations, HOG, and others that support our work. 42 members and growing. We have an advisory council of 15 representatives from our 3 sectors, And again, representing, we have seats for student representation, one from each of the 3 sectors. We meet biannually in the spring and fall. We bring together our consortium partners to talk about these issues, to talk about the work that they're doing on their campuses, and to give them a space and opportunity for them to talk across sectors. So this is an opportunity for ISDs, community colleges, and universities to come together and talk with each other to address this issue. And we also convene meetings between the regions. So there's regional discussions at these biannual meetings, and then there's a sector discussion so that we can address this issue collectively. And then the Texas Male Leadership Summit in August, that's August 17th and 18th. That's an opportunity for all of our members and at least 10 of their students that they're working with on their campus. And that could be some kind of minority male initiative. It could be a mentoring program. We have them convene at the summit. We have it in August. We host it here at UT Austin, and we have about 500 participants at these summits. And these are panels and workshops and keynotes, and we have student convening. We have spoken word, poetry session, because cultural arts is a big part of the curriculum that we do and use. And so that's a little bit about the consortia. I'm going to turn it over now to Mike, and Mike is going to talk more deeply about the mentoring program and our partnerships there with local schools.
Yeah, thank you, Emmet. As Emmet mentioned, we have 3 different levels that we aim to address, which is the local level with the Project Male Student Mentoring Program, the state level with the consortium work, and the national level with our research project. To talk a little bit more about how the mentoring program works, we definitely provide a lot of services to schools around in the Austin area, but what we pride ourselves on is that we are able to connect college students directly with youth. And for many of these young male students of color, they have never interacted with college students before or don't have any family members who have attended college. So what this means is that they are potential first-generation college students. And what's great about our program is that we serve male students of color at the middle school and high school level, but our college students come from all races, ethnicities, genders, all different kinds of identities that we've had represented in the past. At the mentoring, with the mentoring component, it's a 1-to-1 ratio or 1-to-2 ratio, meaning we try to pair up one mentor to one mentee when we can. But if it's a larger group setting, then we will have group mentoring or maybe team-based mentoring. And we typically go for 1 day a week for 1 hour at their campus, which is great for us because we are able to be visible at their campus. We're able to visit them at their high schools or middle schools and become one with the campus in order for them to know that we're coming on a certain day and they can look forward to seeing us from every single week throughout the school year. We did start at 1 high school in spring of 2012, and we're up to 10 schools this fall, which we'll talk a little bit more in a bit. But one of the greatest things that we have seen grow in the last few years are the community engagement events, which includes what's called our Plática series. And what this means is we bring community leaders from around Austin, whether they're at UT or at the Austin Independent School District or even at the community college level. And they come and speak to our students about what mentoring means to them, how mentoring helped them get to where they are now, and just how mentoring never stops, that they all have someone who they look up to, they have someone that they need advice from, and really how they can build these partnerships and these types of networking communities so that the college students that we have are always building upon that and making sure that they can grow as student leaders and grow into their professional lives as well. On the next slide, we can see the schools that we've served. This past school year, we were at 8 schools total. In the fall, we will be at 10 schools. And as I had mentioned before, growing from 1 school just 5 years ago up to the 10 schools total that we will be serving in the fall has definitely been great expansion for us. But it has been strategic expansion because we aim to serve middle schools that will feed into the high schools that we already exist at. So what that means is that we're able to see which schools we can definitely have room for more students to serve, but we also don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. And if you know anything about Austin, you'll know that I-35 is a way to view the city as economically segregated. East Austin is predominantly lower socioeconomic status and Black and Latino populations. And as you can see, that middle line in the middle of the map is I-35, and most of our schools are located in East, Central, North and South Austin, but we aim to stay true to our mission to serve young male students of color and try to expand to as many schools as we can. But each year we are looking to add at least one more middle school and one more high school with the Austin Independent School District partnership that we serve. And for next school year, the newest schools will be Eastside Memorial High School and Burnett Middle School, with future schools in the queue to be lined up. On the next slide, we want to talk a little bit more about our training that we give to our students. And our service learning course is a 2-semester class where we teach male and female undergraduate students about topics related to K-12 and higher education with male students of color. Topics include the first-generation college students and what that means to be a first-gen college student, the school-to-prison pipeline and what that is, undocumented students, and school tracking. For many of our college students, they have never been exposed to this type of material. And the great thing about our college students as well is that they come from all different disciplines. Many of them are physics majors, computer science majors, radio, television, and film, to some of the more popular majors within our program, which are the human services majors such as sociology, psychology, social work, and so on. But one of the great things that we pride ourselves with the class, as you can see in the picture at the bottom left, the course is taught by our graduate student staff who oversee the middle schools and high schools. This gives them the opportunity to connect with the undergraduates in other ways outside of the high schools and middle schools, but more in a class setting so that they can get to know each other and get to know each other in different ways. What's been really great as well with the service learning course is that at some point every staff member that we currently have on board, which is predominantly made up of grad students, have taught the class. This gives the undergraduate students a very unique experience with the service learning course and the training that they receive, which is more related to the social emotional learning skills, critical mentoring skills, and ensuring that they are better prepared to go out and serve and give back to the community. If you go to the next slide. We just wanted to highlight a few of our students in this past school year as we attended every graduation for the schools that we serve. Most of these pictures are from the end of year celebrations that we held with our students at every school. What's really great about the partnerships that we've developed is there is a school contact for every middle school and high school that we serve, and all of them have been very great advocates for us, great allies for us, in ensuring that the mentoring goes smoothly. So at the top left is one of the schools that is called Martin Middle School, and the assistant principal there has been probably one of the greatest school partners that we've had. He is always on top of his game, making sure that our students are ready to go for mentoring, that they have all the materials ready, and just always ensuring that we have a smooth process for our students to become embedded in the community and making sure that they're looking forward to us every single week. And as you can tell from the other pictures, as I mentioned earlier, we do have male and female college students who mentor the students. And we get asked that question a few times of why we only serve male students of color, or what are we doing to address female students. And one of the ways that we address female students is to make sure that we have Latinas and all other kinds of female students at the college level join us as mentors and give back to their communities. And one of the biggest things that the male students of color at the middle schools and high schools tell us is that they feel very comfortable talking to the female mentors, that they feel that they can open up to them a little bit more, and that they can make sure that they have someone close to them that they look up to, as well as our male students who mentor them as well. Just to wrap up for our students, we do have 2 summer programming for them, which is, one of them is called the Summer Leadership Academy, which will happen in July, and it's a 4-day event. And this year we're actually partnering with another group called Con Mi Madre, who address Latinas and their mothers and their programming to make sure that we can address the Latino and Latina community together. They will be housed at the UT Austin campus. They'll stay overnight. There will be workshop sessions for spoken word, poetry, leadership development, and ensuring that they have a networking group with each other, and looking forward to their school years next year, as well as our Texas Male Student Leadership Summit in August, which will connect close to 500 participants in total, and many of them are from ISDs, community colleges, and four-year universities, giving them another opportunity for them to network with each other in case they want to attend the schools in the fall. They'll know someone there already, and ensuring that we have great partnerships across the state. Now I'll hand it back to Emmet.
So as you can see, as Mike explained, it takes multiple partners, community, of course, school. We're able to leverage the resources here at UT to be able to support the work that we do at AISD. And it's a robust program. As we may have mentioned before, we started about 5 years ago with one school, and that's all it takes is to find one ally in the school district to work with you. That was Ty Davidson at Travis High School, and from there we built the program out to 8 schools, and again, as Mike mentioned, we're going to be adding 2 more schools in the fall, as well as Manor ISD, which is a local school district. We're going to be expanded to a school district outside of Boston ISD, and also KIPP. We'll be working with KIPP in the fall. So we continue to build the program, and we build this program through a model that has worked for us, again, of matching students and middle schoolers and high schools, but we're kind of at a point where we're at capacity in the work that we do. So we're exploring new ways to build the program out. And again, this is an organic process. We learn as we go, but in order to address more students and more schools, we're looking at creative ways of building that program out. So I want to move into a discussion now for the next few minutes about replicating the work that we do. And we frequently get requests from around the country, as well as locally, about creating a mentorship program, for example, or replicating the consortium model. We were in California. Cal State Bakersfield University invited us to do some presentations over 2 days, myself and Dr. Sines, and to provide a history of the work that we're doing, and to provide some tools in order to be able to build this work out at the consortium level. And then again, we another frequent request, as I mentioned before, is how to create a mentoring program. And again, my lesson there is start small, find a partner or two, and then build that program out. It took us about 6 years to get to the point that, where we're at, where we're serving 10 schools, 2 school districts, and now KIPP is coming on board. So one of the ways that we are developing tools and activities, and we call them, this is just a fancy way of providing tools and developing tools for folks to be able to do this work and be more effective about addressing this issue, is we call them capacity building tools and activities. And these are currently under development. The consortium work I mentioned before, we're moving into phase 2 of that consortium work. We were working the first of the second phase of this work, building and institutionalizing our advisory council, and we worked through 4 strategy meetings with our advisory council to create a strategic plan, a business plan to build this work and sustain the work. We're moving into year 2 and 3, and we're going to be building these tools and activities so that folks can actually utilize tools and activities to address these issues and to build on the research that we've conducted here locally with our partners. We did 17 site visits with our consortium partners, and prepared 17 site reports that we provided back to the institutions, and we're now creating a summary report that's going to capture findings across all 17 institutions. And from that, we've begun to categorize some of the needs of our institutional partners, and we've organized those needs along 3 broad categories. A lot of our institutions require research assessment tools to collect data about the work that they're doing on their campuses. If they have some kind of minority male initiative, they want to track whether they're succeeding, track outcomes. So we're creating tools to help them address that category. We're also developing training tools. We'll be able to provide training on cultural competency to faculty at some of these universities and community colleges to address the specific concerns of African American and Latino males, because they have unique needs and they require unique forms of support to address their issues. So we're developing those workshops and tools. And then the other piece, the other broad category of tools and activities that we're creating is outreach. And this requires us to create resources of research on males of color. A lot of folks aren't familiar with that research that's out there, so we're sharing that information through conferences and workshops. And also, as Mike pointed out, we'll frequently get asked about why our focus on males of color, and we have data, of course, that we data points about the growing gap between, for example, males of color and white males, males of color in the general population, and also a growing gender gap between males and females. And so frequently that'll address some of the concerns that folks have about our focus on males of color. But again, as Mike pointed out, we also have we also rely on our female undergraduate students. They understand it's a male space, but they step up, and I think over 50% of our mentors are female, and we couldn't do that work without them. So moving to the next slide, a little bit more specifically, I address some of the tools that we're creating and are under development under the three categories. Research assessment, we're developing surveys, and again, as part of the partnership that we work at the national level. I mentioned at the national level we work with My Brother's Keeper initiative, but we also work with a number of other initiatives. RISE, Boys and Men of Color, Dr. Sean Harper's project at University of Pennsylvania, now moving to University of Southern California. Some of the survey tools that we develop, we do that in tandem with other partners across the country, including SEAL, which is a project based at San Diego State University. Dr. Frank Luke Wood, Dr. Frank Harris, and Dr. Marisa Woodias Vasquez are partners in helping develop some of those research tools. And then again, training, we're developing online modules, workshops, outreach, some of the resources that we're developing. Regional summits, we held our first regional summit in the state of Texas, in South Texas, and we drew about 200 participants. So there's a real need for us to replicate the state summit that we do here that we host at UT Austin, but to do it at the local level. So we're going to start to organize regional summits around the state, beginning with the one in South Texas. So I want to finish up with a couple of resources. So the next slide is a graphic of some of the resources that we've shared with Mentor and Mentor Resource Center, and these will be available for download. And we have a couple of documents that we use when we create these partnerships with schools and with our consortium partners. These are graphic representations of our memorandums of understanding, which spells out and articulates the expectations from us and as well as from our partners. So some sample resources there. We also provided a resource, some of the curriculum that we developed, in particular the service learning curriculum, so you'll have that to access as well. And then finally, I think our last graphic is our last slide, if we can turn to that last slide. These are some of the lessons and takeaways that we wanted to share with you to end our presentation. Mike can talk a little bit about the first couple of bullets, but again, the last bullet, I'll address that and then turn it to Mike, but we want to emphasize that that's important to build a project at scale in order to maintain and sustain the work that we do, and it requires local, state, and national partners to be able to be effective and do this work that we do. You start small and you build out, and as I said before, the research agenda began 8 years ago, then led to the mentor program 6 years ago, which then led to the consortia. As we gained visibility, we attracted funders and supporters to support the work that we do and build this thing out. And again, it requires diverse sectors to be effective: education, community, faith, grant funders. All we see as start partners because they're part of the conversation and the work that we do. In addition to the financial support they provide us, they also provide us with we're able to have conversations with them to build this work and to move forward. So Michael, talk just briefly about some of the lessons learned from the mentoring program.
Yeah, thank you, Emmet. Just to close out our presentation, we urge administrators to aim to become embedded in the schools and the communities that they serve. We want for our students to view us as a part of their school, not some outside entity that's coming into their campus and serving them, but just really that they associate us with the school and seeing us as a part of their community. Another piece of advice that we would have is for strategic expansion. As we mentioned earlier, that we have grown from one school 5-6 years ago now to 10 schools, but it wasn't overnight. We wanted to make sure that we were smart about which schools we're expanding to, especially with feeder schools. And just the last piece of advice that we would have is for every campus to have required buy-in from their campus leadership and to have a strong connection with the principals, assistant principals, counselors, whoever the point of contact is for the programs that you oversee, just making sure that they can be there for you, to be an ally, and that you can work hand in hand and continue to grow those relationships.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much. What a great, terrific exchange of information to both Emmet and in looking at Project Mails, and also to Mike about the mentoring program. So we look forward to looking at the resources. And for everyone that's on the call, the resources are located under the handout tabs in your control panel. But we also will upload them to the CMWS website on mentoring.org, and we will also send out a message to the chat about how to actually access those. So Audrey, do we have any questions for our panelists at this time?
We have a lot of great questions, actually. So I want to start with something that was mentioned early on when you, Mike and Emmet, were talking. You had mentioned that youth voice and input is very important to your program. So I was wondering if you could explain a little bit more how you use youth voice in determining partners to pursue.
Again, the work that we do is driven by the needs of the schools, and a lot of the young men that we work with in the mentoring program are what are defined as tier 2 students, and these are your bubble students, and they categorize students as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and tier 2 are those students that by mentoring can have an impact in keeping them on track. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. We want to we see mentoring as an intervention strategy to be able to keep them on path and on track. And so when we do our mentoring sessions, and this is something Mike can also speak to, is we want to create a space. We come in with an agenda, we come in with curriculum, but we also want students to take ownership of that space. And the way we do that is before we even introduce any of the concepts and any of the academic tutorial exercises that we do that are organized around 4 themes, we build relationships with these young men, because it's very critical. Some of these young men have been burned by the institution, so we want to build relationships with these young men through one-on-one, one-on-two relationships, and through the group of mentoring that we do. So it's very critical that we establish those relationships and build that space. And we'll frequently spend many weeks doing that before we bring in the curriculum. So that's one example of how we're intentional about youth voice and creating spaces that meet their needs. And a lot of these conversations at the very beginning of the semester are really understanding what these young men want and need. And then after building those relationships, then we bring in our curriculum as well. I kind of alluded to another example where our advisory council, we have 3 student seats on their advisory council, and that's a student representative from each of the 3 sectors. And so they are part of that conversation, part of our strategic planning meetings. They are engaged in those conversations as we build this project out. So I don't know, Mike, if you want to add anything about the mentoring space.
Yeah, just quickly, as Emmet alluded to earlier, our 4 themes are brotherhood, leadership, college and career readiness, and this upcoming school year we'll be adding health and wellness. And as Emmet explained, we do bring the curriculum to the schools and to the students we serve, but we always ask them for what they want to learn, what are some of the topics that they want to cover. We try to make it fun for them, play sports, or if some of them are more into the arts, then we'll have students who can draw with them or play instruments with them. So we always try to change things up a bit. Every site has a skeleton agenda that they can work off of, but every mentoring session is organic for those schools and making sure that they can develop those relationships.
Just one last thing. We wanted to emphasize that, you know, we have a pipeline. Our mentorship program begins in the middle school, continues in the high school, in undergraduate, our undergraduate space and beyond. And again, as our mentors are mentoring mentees, middle and high school, our grad students are mentoring our undergraduate mentors. I, in turn, and Dr. Sines, mentor our grad students. And so it's kind of a pipeline approach. And for mentors, of course, I mentioned Mike mentioned the student council, and they're very involved in the development of many of the activities that we do, the Platicas, the speaker series that Mike referred to, and also in the development of the curriculum. In that classroom space, we also create space for student input. And the student council also engages with us in development of the work, particularly at the mentorship program level, but also at the consortium level. Of course, we bring in representation through the advisory council of students.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I have another question about school partnerships. So we know that schools face immense challenges with competing priorities, and you spoke about the need to be embedded within the school and the school culture. So how do you select schools and other organizations that you partner with, and are there any characteristics that you've seen that let you know that this is just not a partnership that you should be pursuing?
Yeah, no, that's a great point, that schools have AISD, just to give a quick breakdown, has over 100 partnerships and programs that they oversee, you know, at the entire district level. So getting, you know, a piece of their time, definitely we have to make sure that we show them and showcase why this kind of work is important for them. To answer your question about the kinds of schools that we would serve, it's mostly on East Austin, schools that have higher Black and Latino populations for the students that we can serve. And again, feeder schools that if we expand into a middle school, they have to serve the high schools that we already exist at and continue to expand. As Emmet mentioned earlier, we are expanding into other school districts and to KIPP. And one of the biggest selling points for KIPP was that their school is, I believe, over 90% Latino, which definitely was a huge incentive for us to be able to serve that kind of student population and continue to grow into other schools going forward.
Yeah, just adding to what Mike said, we have to be very strategic about it as we build this thing out, because we're getting close to capacity using the current model. So again, feeder schools that feed into high schools, there are many schools that are interested in having our mentoring program, but we just can't. We can only do it strategically, 2 schools at a time. And again, focused on East Austin, because that's a predominantly African-American Latino community, low SES. That's really where the need is for our young men, and where we find them. And it's we're very specific about building that out in East Austin and in the surrounding school districts. Manor is east of Austin. Del Valley is another school district that's southeast from here. A number of our students are also moving out of the school district into surrounding areas like Round Rock and Pflugerville. So those are kind of areas that we would build the program out and still stay within the goals and the mission of the work that we do.
Excellent, thank you. And Desiree, do we have time for another question?
Yes, we have time. Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. So I'm actually going to open this up to all of the panelists. We've been talking about all of these strategic partnerships, and one thing that had come up from a few people was about funding. And if any of you utilize these partnerships as an opportunity for additional funding, is that something that's asked of partners? Do any of the universities or public schools contribute financially in any way?
I can address that very quickly. Yes, we're very reliant on multiple funding sources. I mentioned our philanthropic partners, Greater Texas GTF, Texas Guaranteed, Hogg, Kresge Foundation. They were vital for us to be able to build the consortia work that we've done, less so the research agenda, although we now have a partner, national partner, RISE, Boys and Men of Color, Dr. Sean Harper's initiative, has supported us to be able to bring together our faculty research affiliates in January. AISD provides us with support. It took us a few years. We did it on our dime, but when they saw the work that we were doing and the outcomes, positive outcomes with the men of color that we were working with, they stepped up and supported us with 1 year of support, and then translated that into 3 years of support. So again, that allowed us to be able to bring on Mike and really build the program out, because up until that point, you know, my staff consists of graduate students, MAs and Ph.D. students, and that's how we do the work that we do. However, in order to effectively build and sustain this work, you need to do it with full-time staffers, and so AISD was able to step up. Again, the philanthropic partners, we also reach out to, for our summit, we reach out to the private sector. And so we have a number of private sector partners that sponsor the summit. And so it's kind of an array of funding sources that we draw on. I mentioned also strategic plan. We're moving into the next phase of our consortium work, and that's going to require us to explore other funding sources. And I mentioned the CBTAs, the tools and activities, and that's going to allow us to be able to generate some revenue to support this work as well. And then also move into a phase of fee membership, consortium fee membership. And that's the only way we're going to be able to sustain this work, because as many of you know, grant funding has limits. And in order to really effectively sustain this work, we require institutions also to be stepping up. And we're going to ask institutions, our partners, to provide fees and through the services that we provide, but also be able to do that with non-consortium members as we move around the country and work to replicate the work that we do here.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Oh, you go ahead.
Desiree,
Go ahead. Go ahead.
97% of our students come from underserved communities, which means that from an economic standpoint, they're at the lowest scales of these totem poles. What we have to do is that several of our corporate sponsors will give money toward that summer experience that the sophomores have. Some of our schools are East Coast prep schools, you know, Phillips, Exeter, Andover, Choate, Rosemary Hall. These particular schools can be, summer experiences can be anywhere from $10,000 to $12,000 to $15,000. But the schools will offer scholarships and subsidize their attendance. Also, we have corporate sponsors that are giving money toward those summer experiences, along with our other donors and philanthropic groups that we work with. But we also have some that work with our scholars groups that provide the actual stipend for those students to receive once they've completed that particular tenure for that scholar group.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Lauran, and thank you also, Emmet, for answering those questions, those last few questions from the audience. Yeah. So as we wrap up today's webinar, again, I cannot express enough thanks to our panelists, Dr. Lauran James, Dr. Emmet Campos, and Mike Gutierrez. Your participation along with each of you on the webinar today is much appreciated. You can check out the OJJDP National Mentoring Resource Center website for no-cost mentoring resources to help you apply evidence-based mentoring practices to your program. The OJJDP NMRC provides evidence reviews on mentoring models and mentoring for special populations, implementation resources from training manuals to mentor guides, reviewed by the NMRC Research Board, a blog featuring innovations and best practices from mentoring practitioners, and the opportunity to request no-cost training or technical assistance. Additionally, we encourage you to register your program with the Mentoring Connector, a national database of mentoring programs. This zip code searchable database allows mentors and mentees from across the country to find your program, and is connected to LinkedIn, NBA Cares, Mentor.gov, and so many other avenues of free program promotion. As a reminder, 1 week after the webinar, all attendees will receive an email with a link to the Collaborative Mentoring Webinar Series webpage, where we will post the recording, slides, and additional resources. And also, don't forget, we do want your feedback. At the end of today's webinar, please answer the short survey and help us make this series even better. Be sure to visit the CMWS page on the Mentor website for an archive of all past webinars and information about upcoming webinars. We also encourage you to get the help you need for your mentoring program. Whether you need help with recruitment, planning, or evaluation, you can request technical assistance again through the NMRC. No matter where you're located, the NMRC is there for you. Additionally, to further your programs, just actual recruitment efforts, be sure to connect with all parties on this webinar. And thanks to everyone for joining us today. Please join us next month for the next webinar, which is entitled Communicating with Mentees, and will occur on Thursday, July 20th, 2017 at 1 to 2:15 p.m. Eastern. Until then, enjoy.